Hey everyone, and welcome back. We are going to be creating a cool smart home app, and this is going to take a couple of different videos, but we're going to go into different types of interactions we're going to create, and we're going to get into some more complex like swiping interactions when maybe adjusting temperature and stuff like that. So you have the final design files, you also have all these design assets that I have, and you have the prototypes. And you can go ahead and take a look at what those are going to look like in the end. But I encourage you to kind of work along with me, maybe create a similar type of app. Doesn't need to be the same. But what I'm going to be focusing on, at least with this portion, is toggling on and off these different states. So let's jump right in. So right now, I'm going to build this little screen pretty quickly. I already kind of have some of my assets ready, and I'll get into how I've built those as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to press F, and I'm going to grab an iPhone screen. So there we go. We're just going to call this our smart home app. And from here, we can actually start already creating some parts. So I've kind of went ahead and created the different logo for this. I mean, you can call it whatever you want. I called it Smart. Not really original, but it's going to work for us. And we have a header, and this header is an auto layout header. And it has an avatar. Another great resource, I just want to kind of point this out for anyone looking for things like avatars, is to go to Content Reel. So Content Reel will allow you to kind of just grab an image. So I can just grab this image, click it, and it's going to automatically throw an image in there for us. So we'll just use that one. That sounds good. Okay, so we have the logo and the image over here. We can push this down a bit. And I think the next thing we want to do is maybe stagger these pieces. So I have them set up like this. So if I turn on my grid, oh, I don't have a grid. So we can create a grid if we want. And to do that, we're just going to click on the frame. And we are going to go to Layout Grid. And we're going to switch that to columns. And we can do like 8 columns, a margin of 16, and a gutter of 16. So your gutter is the space between these red columns, and your margin is going to be the space on the outside. So we'll set that to 16 as well, and set it to stretch. So that way, if you do stretch, your design stretches as well, and the grid stretches as well. So I'm just going to snap this to the grid. A lot of people don't use grids. I love using grids because it's just super easy to design with. Now getting into this little kind of thing over here, I have a total of 4 devices. So it's split into 2 different sections. So we can just rename this to title. So I have the icon, the more icon, and then I have the title there, and then I have kind of like a subtitle and the title stacked like that in an auto layout. So that is the frame. They're 4 pixels. I have it just set. Doesn't matter as long as it's left aligned and it's packed. Perfect. And we can just do fill the container. So it's going to automatically go all the way to the edge. Same thing with the content within. If we just select that and select fill container, it's going to do that as well. So if we do resize it, we're going to have it wrapped to the next line. This we'll just leave to fixed width because we're not looking to scale that in any way. Now let's get into the actual smart devices that we have here. So I'm going to turn off the grid for a second. And we can scale this nicely. So I have these actually set up as their own rows. So there's 2 rows here, and inside the row, there is a container that holds the toggle button and the toggle circle. I created this toggle actually with the auto layout feature. So if you look, it's 1.5 pixels around. You don't have to really worry about the space in between because it is kind of a fixed width container. Over here, you'll notice that's fixed width. And then if I want to turn the toggle on, I can just do that. And then after, switch the color here to something a little more nicer. So definitely easy to work with. I love using it. I'm sure you all know I love using auto layout. So this is the other container as well that houses everything. So the toggle's on the bottom, as you see. And then after I have the icon over here that I grabbed from, I think it was the noun project, and I'll put that resource for you all. And just below I have the text. So I have lighting text right here. And in this little section, they are spaced 12 pixels apart. So it's a pretty large icon. Okay, and that's basically kind of how I created the container. Now, just to note that the container has 16 pixels padding around, and it's all left aligned, as you can see within auto layout, and it's spaced between, meaning that it is acting like a flex box in a way. This over here, this kind of container over here is going to be at the top, and this container is going to be at the bottom. It's just going to create space between. So if I do stretch it, you'll see that it acts accordingly. And they are both set to fill the container, the row, and the row has 12 pixel spacing. And the same is for everything else. So we've created a nice little responsive container here, which we can move in any which way. So that is where our main controls will be. I even have the active controls here as well, which is super helpful. And I need to get the nav. So let me just grab the nav from another file I have open. So I have the nav over here. And this is essentially the same type of thing that we've been using before. You know, the auto layout feature again. And the way I have it mixed up here is it's just going to be 20 pixels on the side, 20 pixels on the other side, and it's going to be spaced between. I didn't give it too much thought, but it's totally up to you if you want to create something on your own or follow along with these exact designs. So that is how we're going to place it. It can kind of sit like that for now. You know, we could actually even bring this into a container on its own. Surprise, surprise, auto layout makes another appearance. And we can do that. And we can just kind of keep it white for now because we can do some pretty cool things with the background here. So you'll notice that it's not scaling properly. And if we just switch that to fill container, if we select all these containers inside that container we just created, now it will. Perfect. And we can get started here. I have this kind of thing on the background here, and it's totally up to you if you want to use it. It kind of adds a little bit of a nice look. So I'll show you what it kind of looks like. So these radials, these kind of circles, whatever you'd like to call them. I'm going to send them to the back. And then I have this background blur. So I'll show you what that looks like when I throw it on here. So let me select both of those things, the radials and the background, and I'm going to send them both to the back. So what I've done here, it's just a background that's set to 20%, and then it has an effect called background blur. And on that effect, I have it placed to 100. And that's going to kind of give me this kind of like iPhone look where they have those modals that come up. So you can do the exact same thing with yours. I'm going to actually just modify some of these colors a bit because they are, you know, they're popping a lot. so we can keep them more monotone or just a little bit more scaled back in terms of brightness. There's one. Let's take this other one and do the same. Scale it back a bit. So I think that looks pretty cool. We can even do the exact same thing for this as well. We can bring this down to like 20% and add an effect. So we'll do background blur. We do, oops, not 10. We do 100. So you kind of get this nice little effect going on here. And if you wanted to, you can add a nice little fill on top of it all. Just in the background, it's set to solid, but I'm going to just do like a linear blur. And so if you wanted to create a bit of just a bit of contrast, you can do that. So I have this set to 60. We can just like bump it down to 40 a bit, and then we can create this linear gradient that's just kind of passing through. We can even just kind of keep it more to the bottom here. Just so you can kind of see a little bit more of a change between the card over here and the background. I kind of want to give users a bit more in terms of actual change in color. So we have the red, and that's kind of like a really dreary red. That's a little bit more gray, so there is a bit of fine tuning that kind of goes into this stuff. Let's go back and make sure our other one is there. We go. And so that is kind of our first stab at this design. And when we get back, we're actually going to kind of dress this up a bit more and then start animating these kind of toggles. And I'll show you how to do that really, really quickly. So go ahead, kind of take my advice and go through this a bit more. See if you can get it to a place that you really, really like. And then we'll get into toggle animation. So we can create those like micro interactions right on the page and showcase like what that looks like if it's going to be a background color like this, and then showing like the temperature gauges. So please post your progress. I would love to see it. And let's move on to the next video.